break in the case of a double murder in Miramar.
Two people now behind bars, including a South Florida rapper who actually sings a popular song about murder.
YNW Melly's rise ended the moment he stepped into a cell, his career frozen by one of hip-hop's most shocking cases. Now he's fighting for his life behind bars, facing a reality far darker than the fame he left behind. This is what his world looks like on the inside, and how much worse it might get. Isolation and jail conditions. For years, YNW Melly, whose real name is Jamel Demons, has claimed that his life in Broward County Jail is far from a standard incarceration. His legal team has repeatedly argued that he has been subjected to what they describe as debilitating isolation. According to the claims, Melly has had very limited contact with his family, including long periods without visits or phone calls. Even meetings with his attorneys have reportedly been heavily restricted or conducted under strict supervision, preventing the kind of privacy that is normally expected for legal consultations.
And what is your decision?
I will not be testifying.
You will not be testifying.
No, sir.
Is anyone forcing you or coercing you to make this decision?
No, sir.
Anybody?
Melly's defense team argues that his housing conditions are punitive rather than protective. The lawsuit outlines multiple instances where he was allegedly placed in cells without doors, monitored constantly by emergency personnel, or only allowed outside his cell for 1 hour a day. During those periods outside his cell, he had no meaningful contact with other inmates. These restrictions, his attorneys maintain, go far beyond standard administrative segregation and have had a significant impact on his mental and emotional well-being. The defense argues that this prolonged isolation is part of a pattern meant to weaken him before trial. By limiting access to legal counsel and restricting basic communication, they say the conditions interfere with his ability to mount a fair defense. From this perspective, what might appear as standard jail protocols are actually affecting his constitutional rights. Meanwhile, the Broward Sheriff's Office has pushed back against these claims. They assert that Melly has not been placed in solitary confinement in the legal sense, but has been held in administrative segregation, which is designed for inmates considered at risk to themselves or others. The BSO maintains that these measures are in line with standard practices and are not intended to punish him. Despite this, Melly's legal team continues to press for changes, including immediate release. They argue that the current conditions are harming his ability to prepare for trial, affecting his mental state, and limiting access to his attorneys and resources. While jail officials emphasize safety and risk management, the dispute highlights a deeper tension between security protocols and the rights of an accused individual under extreme confinement. Legal strategy and defense. The lawsuit, YNW Melly's fight for freedom, isn't limited to arguments in criminal court. In addition to challenging his detention, his attorneys filed a civil lawsuit against the Broward Sheriff's Office, claiming severe misconduct in how he is being held. The lawsuit, spanning over a dozen pages, outlines concerns regarding attorney access, communication restrictions, and treatment that they argue undermines his constitutional rights.
Now to an update. Rapper YNW Melly is changing lawyers amid his murder case that is scheduled for retrial in 2027. The reason is because someone on his legal team is also under criminal investigation by these same prosecutors, which he says is a conflict of interest.
Central to the case is the claim that Melly's ability to meet with his lawyers has been repeatedly compromised. Meetings are said to take place through plexiglass and via phone, often after long waits, rather than in private, confidential spaces. His defense team contends that these conditions interfere with attorney-client privilege, which is critical for a fair trial. They argue that every delay and every restricted interaction diminishes his capacity to prepare effectively. The lawsuit emphasizes the deliberate nature of these restrictions. According to the defense, this is not accidental or procedural. It is a systematic approach to put him at a disadvantage. They also highlight how his isolation has severed meaningful contact with family, friends, and the outside world, further compounding the strain. Melly's retrial is currently scheduled for September 10, 2025, and he faces double murder charges. For his attorneys, the civil suit is not just about improving his conditions, but is part of a broader legal strategy. By challenging the jail's practices, they hope to assert his rights, push for his release, and create a framework that allows him to prepare properly for the retrial. This legal approach is complex. It involves navigating the civil claim while simultaneously defending against criminal charges, managing appeals, and addressing any potential implications from co-defendant arrangements or witness issues. The civil lawsuit adds a layer of strategy to the overall defense, signaling that Melly's team is not only challenging the charges, but also the environment in which he is held. It reflects the broader understanding that how a defendant is treated in custody can have a direct impact on the fairness of a trial and the outcome of legal proceedings. Witness tampering charges. In addition to his ongoing murder case, YNW Melly is facing witness tampering allegations. Prosecutors claim that he attempted to use other inmates to send messages to potential witnesses, including his former girlfriend and her mother, with the intent of influencing their testimony. These allegations add another legal challenge to a case already defined by complexity and public attention.
Rapper YNW Melly is accused of witness tampering now, just as he's about to be retried for murder.
According to reports, Melly allegedly communicated indirectly through co-defendants and other inmates. Prosecutors describe a series of calls and coded language meant to disguise the purpose of the messages. For example, nicknames were reportedly used to refer to individuals involved in the case. The prosecution argues that these actions demonstrate an awareness of guilt and an attempt to obstruct justice. The circumstances of jail life play a role in the case. Melly's own access to communication has been restricted, and he has reportedly been under near constant lockdown, allowed only 1 hour outside his cell each day. Despite these limitations, prosecutors argue that the tampering efforts persisted, suggesting a deliberate attempt to manipulate witnesses even under tight supervision. Melly's attorneys have pushed back on these claims, arguing that the allegations are exaggerated or misinterpreted. They contend that some of the communications may have been mischaracterized and emphasize that Melly's ability to influence events outside jail is limited. These tampering charges could have serious implications for the retrial. If a jury interprets them as evidence of intent to obstruct justice, it could complicate his defense and impact perceptions of his credibility. The added layer of legal exposure increases both the stakes and the complexity of his defense strategy, as attorneys must address the original charges while also countering allegations that his actions were intended to influence witnesses. Co-defendant's plea and potential impact. A significant development in YNW Melly's case is the plea deal struck by his co-defendant, Cortland YNW Bortland Henry. Henry pleaded no contest to charges of accessory after the fact and witness tampering in relation to the 2018 shootings. The deal effectively removes him from facing the most serious charges, including the 2 first-degree murder counts.
With credit of more than 700 days of time served, Cortland Henry is likely looking at getting out of prison in 8 years.
While Henry entered the plea agreement, he is reportedly not required to testify against Melly. This limits the immediate usefulness of his cooperation for prosecutors, who often rely on co-defendant testimony to strengthen their case. Without this direct testimony, the retrial must proceed without a key witness who could provide a detailed account of events from inside the co-defendant's perspective. The plea deal does include a proffer, which means Henry will provide a sworn statement outlining his version of the events. While this can guide the prosecution in shaping the case, it doesn't carry the same weight as courtroom testimony. Prosecutors must carefully integrate this information while navigating the limitations imposed by the plea agreement. For Melly, the co-defendant's plea underscores the tangled nature of his legal situation. While the deal may clarify certain aspects for prosecutors, it doesn't directly resolve questions about his own guilt or innocence. He still faces the original murder charges and the additional witness tampering allegations, all of which are now complicated by the nuances of plea agreements, proffers, and strategic legal maneuvering. The arrangement also signals the high stakes involved. Every decision by a co-defendant can ripple through the case, affecting defense strategy, evidentiary considerations, and trial preparation. For Melly and his legal team, the focus must remain on addressing multiple fronts at once, balancing the challenges of his own defense with the shifting dynamics of co-defendant arrangements and ongoing legal developments. Mental health and psychological strain. YNW Melly's legal battle is not only defined by the charges he faces, but also by serious concerns about his mental health. Public reports indicate that Melly has described having dissociative identity disorder, commonly referred to as split personality, alongside bipolar disorder and ADHD. He has spoken about 2 distinct personas: Melly, who is expressive and upbeat, and Melvin, who is more volatile and prone to anger. These conditions, his defense argues, make the impact of isolation and restricted contact in jail even more severe.
Thank you, folks.
Attorneys for Melly have emphasized that his time in Broward County Jail has worsened his mental and emotional state. They argue that prolonged periods of isolation, limited contact with family, and minimal access to meaningful social interaction have created a highly stressful environment. In motions filed to the court, his legal team has requested delays in his retrial, citing these conditions as barriers to both preparation and mental stability. In their filings, Melly's team compared his experience to that of death row inmates, stating that some of the conditions he faces are even more restrictive. The concern is not merely about comfort, but about constitutional rights. If he cannot access his attorneys privately, review evidence adequately, or participate in his defense with clarity of mind, it could affect the fairness of the trial itself. Prosecutors and court officials have been skeptical of these arguments. They contend that the severity of the charges, combined with allegations of witness tampering, justify the restrictions on his movement and contact. In their view, security and safety must be balanced against his personal circumstances, and they argue that the jail's conditions are consistent with standard procedures for high-risk inmates. Nevertheless, Melly's mental health presents a deeply personal layer to his case. Beyond the legal strategy, his defense insists that psychological stability is crucial to mounting an effective defense and ensuring a fair trial. This aspect of the case highlights the broader challenges faced by incarcerated individuals with complex mental health needs, especially when navigating high-profile criminal proceedings. For Melly, the question of mental health is not just a sidebar. It is a central issue that intersects with every part of his legal fight. Trial delays and retrial timeline. YNW Melly's legal case has been marked by repeated delays, appeals, and procedural disputes. His retrial was originally scheduled for September 10, 2025, but ongoing motions and filings have cast doubt on whether that timeline can be maintained. Melly's defense team has argued that the combination of long-term isolation, mental health concerns, and procedural issues prevents him from being fully prepared for trial.
Apparent prayers and kisses blown into the air. YNW Melly has been pretty expressive for the camera in the courtroom. What does it mean for him, if anything? We discuss.
A major factor cited by his attorneys is the ongoing strain caused by confinement under restrictive conditions. They have requested that the trial be postponed to 2026, emphasizing that his ability to work with lawyers, review evidence, and plan strategy has been severely hindered. According to the defense, proceeding under the current circumstances would compromise his right to a fair trial, raising constitutional concerns. The court has not yet issued a final ruling on these requests. If approved, the delay could extend Melly's pretrial incarceration to more than 7 years, a significant period during which he remains in custody under strict supervision. Each postponement increases the pressure on his legal team and adds to the uncertainty surrounding his defense strategy. Prosecutors, however, continue to argue against delays. They cite the seriousness of the murder charges, the potential for witness tampering, and the strength of the evidence as reasons to maintain the original trial schedule. They contend that Melly represents a risk to the community and to the integrity of the judicial process, and that security concerns justify keeping the current timeline in place. These scheduling conflicts illustrate the complexity of high-profile cases. Every motion, appeal, or delay has consequences, not just for the defendant, but also for witnesses, prosecutors, and the broader legal system. For Melly, the trial timeline is more than a procedural matter. It directly affects his ability to defend himself effectively and manage the personal and psychological stress of long-term detention. Ultimately, the retrial timeline remains uncertain. Each development, whether a delay request or a motion from the prosecution, adds layers to an already complex case, making preparation, defense, and strategy all the more challenging. Bond battles and pretrial release. Denied, a recurring and dramatic aspect of YNW Melly's legal journey has been his repeated attempts to secure bond and obtain pretrial release. In May 2025, his legal team proposed house arrest as an alternative to continued detention. Their plan included a monitored environment with GPS tracking, 24/7 private security, and assurances that the record label would post the bond. Despite these measures, the motion was denied, marking at least the third rejection by a Broward County judge.
Welcome back, everybody. So rapper YNW Melly is 7 weeks out from his retrial in South Florida, and his defense team believes that that time should be spent out on bond.
Judge Martin Fine cited the seriousness of the double murder charges and ongoing witness tampering allegations as justification for denying release. Prosecutors emphasized the strength of their evidence and argued that Melly posed too high a risk to be released, even under strict supervision. They maintained that the nature of the charges warranted continued incarceration to protect the integrity of the trial and the safety of the public. Melly's mother reacted publicly to the bond denial, expressing heartbreak over the decision but insisting that the fight to secure his release was far from over. She highlighted the personal and emotional toll of his continued detention, emphasizing the importance of family contact and access to proper legal representation. From the defense perspective, the repeated denials of bond underscore broader concerns about the conditions of his confinement. Attorneys argue that prolonged incarceration without adequate access to lawyers, family, or basic social contact undermines his ability to prepare for trial. In their view, the denial of bond is not just a procedural setback, but a continuation of restrictive conditions that impact both his mental health and legal strategy. Currently, Melly remains in custody, continuing to wait for his retrial. The repeated failures to secure bond highlight the challenges of balancing legal rights with public safety considerations. For Melly and his defense team, each denied motion reinforces the need to navigate a complex system while managing personal, legal, and psychological pressures. The bond battles are more than a procedural matter. They are a reflection of the broader tension between high-profile criminal prosecution and the rights of the accused. YNW Melly's life behind bars is far more complicated than headlines suggest. The day-to-day struggles, the legal battles, and the relationships strained by confinement. It's all part of a story the public hasn't seen in full. If you want to see what happens next, the court decisions, the prison dynamics, and the future of his music career, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The next revelation could rewrite everything you thought you knew about his story.